This week we're talking about writing music for wedding videos. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and before we start this video I'd just like to remind you all to please subscribe if you haven't already. We release new videos every week on video production, filmmaking, music production, photography, all that good stuff. So if you enjoy any of those types of videos, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We'd love to have you return. This week's video was actually shot 18 months ago, and then it just kind of got forgotten about for some reason. I think we restructured our folders or something. Anyway, I recently rediscovered it and I put off releasing it for a while because I wasn't sure if I was going to need to re-record stuff, but I've gone through everything and actually it's all still very relevant today, so I thought I'd release it as it is and I hope you'll enjoy it. I do look a bit different because I've lost a bit of weight in that time, so I'm about 3 stone heavier in the following footage, but I hope you enjoy this video on wedding music production, and yeah. Over to you, 18 months ago, Sam. So as well as being involved in Phased Media, I also run a wedding video production business called Pixel Weddings. Now that is with my business partner Adam, who is also involved in Phased Media as well. And the two businesses are very much connected. A lot of the times me and Adam will utilise videographers, possibly photographers, and also musicians from Phased Media to help us out with some of the production elements of the wedding videos. So that leads us on to this video, which is of course writing music for wedding videos. So of course with wedding videos, as you would know and expect, you need a good music track to go along with it. Now you can't necessarily just use popular music like your favourite Ed Sheeran or Coldplay song, because then you run into licensing and copyright issues. Now if you do have a commercial license to use those sorts of popular music tracks, that means that you could use whatever track that your clients want without any kind of issues with copyright and stuff. But for those of us who don't have that license, because they are very expensive, we have to go for royalty-free options. Royalty-free music in the past was never really that great. It was pretty basic and what you were getting was pretty limited, but in recent years the quality of it has obviously improved dramatically. And that's probably one of the best ways in which you can actually include some really great tracks in your videos, and it can really bring them up to the next level. Now, the reason that I prefer not to do that is, one, being a musician myself, I always have a very specific idea when I do a wedding video of what I want the track to sound like. And a lot of the time, one, I can't find quite what I'm looking for, and two, I then have to decide, is the license worth me getting? Is it worth me actually paying for that license? So for anyone who is a bit more musical and who wants to create stuff, this is what I do. So I know that the original music that I write and create, one, I know I've definitely got the copyright because I've written everything and I've done it all myself, and two, that no one else will have used it before. That's the main reason why I choose to do that. Now, it's not for everyone, but for those who are interested in writing their own music, this is how we go about doing that. When I first want to write a music track, I'll think of a chord sequence or just something very basic, normally written on my acoustic guitar, which I will grab. Most of my songs start with an acoustic guitar, just more to get an idea of the chord sequence I want. Normally within wedding videos, I'm kind of writing them as if they are their own sort of popular music track, normally sticking to about maybe 5 or 6 chords at the most, sticking in either a definite major or minor key and not really deviating too much from that. Of course you can break the rules and you can do different stuff. I find generally sticking to like ballad and love song style chord sequences are the best and most effective for wedding videos. Normally, typically you'll find that music used in wedding videos, not always of course, but most of the time, it's slower tempo, normally in a major key, and you're just trying to mix that emotion with the happy, uplifting sort of time that people are having at the wedding. As well as things like tempo, you also want to decide what key you're using. So in the case of this one, for this example, I'm in the key of E. And then you want to decide, do you want it in 4/4 time, which is just your standard, or do you want to go for something a bit different, possibly a 6/8 feel, which would be something like this. And then from then, once I've figured out the key and the tempo and the kind of chord sequence and the time signature and all that sort of stuff, I'll then take out my phone or take out a little recording device and start just jotting down some ideas that I've got on my head. Again, normally just on my acoustic guitar or possibly on a keyboard. From that, we then go into the recording process. When it comes to recording the music, I normally first off start by using a program such as Cubase. Obviously there's loads of other programs out there such as Logic and Pro Tools and FL Studio, and you can even use GarageBand if that's all you have. But in this case we're using Cubase because it's cross-platform, so half of us in the business are on Mac and half of us are on Windows just because that's what we prefer. And it's the same reason we use Adobe as well, just sort of switching between the two is a lot easier. So first things first, once you've set up the project file, obviously make sure you've got the tempo and the key and the time signature all input into your projects. The next thing to do would actually be to lay down a basic drum track, because it's a lot easier to record to a drum track than it is to a click track. So this is where, and by the way, I'm not paid to do this because we're not big enough channel to even do that, but Easy Drummer is the program that we use for all our drum beats. Anything that we can't record ourselves, because obviously recording drums, if anyone doesn't know, you have to record like 5 microphones, it takes forever. So we just use Easy Drummer with MIDIs, and you would think that you've got a real drummer playing it, it's that good. So once I've picked a basic drum pattern, I can change easily again later on in the project. I'll then begin by recording my acoustic guitar. Now I set this up, I've got an electroacoustic guitar, so I run one through my Steinberg UR22. You obviously, any kind of audio input is fine, but I use a Steinberg UR22 because that's all I really need. And then I run my guitar with 2 channels. I actually run with direct in off the pickup and then also mic it up with an AKG C3000. Once I've set that up, I'll record several different versions of the chord sequence. Some of it might be fingerpicked, some of it might be full on strumming, and possibly sometimes with a capo or a different way of playing it. And then I might record some lead parts, and I'll basically just create layers and layers and layers of looping from doing that I can then assemble the song with later. So once I've recorded that, I will then pull out my MIDI keyboard, and that's when I start adding things in such as keys, strings, possibly other instruments such as harp or xylophone or any kind of instrumental stuff that I feel the song needs, I will start adding in. So once I've recorded all my audio and all the MIDI data and made sure it's all lined up and I've quantized it so it's, you know, it's all in time, I will then chop it up and start creating little bars that I can loop in and create a song from it and actually create a structure. So once I've built up the basic structure, normally the way I do it is I like to have it build up slowly and then die down just before the middle when you actually get to the bride walking down the aisle and doing the vows. And then once the bride and groom have kissed, that's when it builds up again to the final crescendo. So you've got the end speeches, and it might die down again, and then of course the first dance. And that's where the most emotional bits happen, I find, is the second half. That's where you want it to really have more impact. So if you kind of had a graph, it would be going like that, so sort of up and down. The great thing about creating these sort of bars that you can loop is that you can restructure the song however you need. If you find that you would like your song to just be constantly building up, you can do that, or you can remix it. So what we do as well a lot of the time is we'll actually mix a track, and then once we've mixed it we can then chop it up and rearrange it and add new bits to create a new song or a remix of a song, so we're not using the same track over and over for different videos. So once I've got the structure in place, I'll then start adding details. So I'll record bass, which I just run direct in, nothing fancy on that one, that's just direct in, and then I leave it to Neil to do all the fancy bits as well. And lastly, I might also record some electric guitar. Now you can do this direct in using amp and cab sims. I prefer the old-fashioned way of an SM57 running off my amp, and I think it just gives more authentic sound, but that's each to their own. So once I've done all of that, once I've recorded everything, added in all the MIDIs, added in the final tweaks and made sure everything is structured, and I've done some levels and stuff, I will then send it over to Neil, who will make it better. So Neil's job is basically to mix and master and possibly adjust a few things. Sometimes I might have recorded something slightly at a time, so he might adjust that. Basically it's the finishing touches, and that is actually possibly one of the most important stages, which will make an alright sounding song into a great sounding song. So that's going to be a video for another time. Neil's already recorded part 2 of the wedding music production video, and that goes over mixing, mastering and all that stuff, but it's a very in-depth video, as we would always expect from Neil. So that'll be coming in a few weeks time. Anyway, yes, I hope you all enjoyed my process and the reasons why I kind of make my own wedding music. I mean, basically the reason is I know exactly how it's going to fit and how it's going to work. You might ask, why wouldn't I just use something from like Artlist? And yeah, I do sometimes, but they're never fully structured the way I want. So my wedding videos are between 4 and 6 minutes, and it's so much easier to just use one track that kind of fits everything, fits the structure that you want to do. And I've kind of got a formula now, and it's just a lot easier when it comes to editing to have a track that's specifically designed for those types of wedding videos. It makes that a lot easier. So there's more work in kind of producing it, but I love making music. It's a lot more satisfying, and it just adds that extra bit of, I guess, bespokeness to what we do, at least. It's certainly not for everyone, and you know, if you're more comfortable using royalty-free or whatever, then more power to you. I know that from experience, I just prefer to write the music myself because I know exactly what I'm getting, and I know exactly how I want it to sound and feel and everything. So that's basically why I do it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little insight into how we do things here at Phased Road Media and Pixel Place Weddings. There'll be plenty more videos coming every week. So yeah, stick around and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.